Greetings, friends. Hope you're doing well. Just had a few thoughts about the current unprecedented situation going on that I wanted to share, along with an article about the dangers of 5G. But there are so many things that you can make a true case for during this that it is somewhat mind-boggling. There is the troops deployed at different places around the country, the video of tanks, etc., being taken from one end of the country to the other, which has been going on for at least 15 years that I know of, probably been going on forever. So on the one hand, it's something to be concerned about, and on the other hand, it's usually turns out to be just something to kind of be part of the story. And at first, when I see these things like the hospitals not being, they're not being occupied, there's all these empty kind of tent city things for hospital beds that are empty. At first, I think, wow, they screwed up there. But none of it is a screw up. It's all just exactly what it's supposed to be, because a large portion of the public is still believing everything they hear from the main sources, and yet there seems to be a small percentage of them who are even starting to question things, because some of this stuff is even coming out in the mainstream media about I'm not sure if the one about hospitals has come out there, but there's a few voices that they pick out that are kind of on my side, and they'll say some stuff, and then they're marginalized, but it's all part of the intended purpose. It's like I've learned from 9/11 and these other things. None of the stuff is, oops, we didn't think about that, or we didn't think about that. It's all there to affect everyone the way it affects everyone. Those who are firmly in the bed of not understanding that they're, lied to on mainstream media are still going along with the majority of the story, I imagine. And so they stuck the 5G MacGuffin into this ordeal, and there are those who say that we don't know what 5G is and things like that, which are very uninformed. Whether or not it has any particular thing to do with this event is still a little bit beyond me, although there are, massive more deployments of the technology going on. And as I mentioned in another video, you could find a video of a professor on YouTube talking about how there was the Spanish flu in 1918, which followed the 6 or so years of the first radio broadcasting. And then there was something else after the satellites in somewhere around 68 to 70 that also caused a bunch of deaths. So there is definitely some substance to the idea that the radio waves affect humans, at least initially, perhaps some of us more than that. But the point being is that there's such a mishmash of stuff in something like this that it's hard to, it can be hard to find your footing at times with so few truth channels around as well. Sometimes people pop up out of nowhere and they make a lot of sense because what they're saying is true, but there's no backlog of their, being online before this thing happened. And so it just becomes more part of the noise, and they're, it doesn't make any difference what point you want to make. If somebody wants to call it debunked or marginalize it, the mainstream has given them a way to do that. So as usual, it's about you knowing what you know and being who you are and going within and understanding that that's where the truth is. Go ahead and skip the first paragraph there. All over the internet are now false claims defending 5G, thanks to many netizens pushing unverified evidence-less based claims that COVID-19 is only just the effects of 5G networks, while others are burning down mast towers throughout Europe. The Guardian, which claims to be independent and not mainstream press, recently published a smear piece against celebrities, including Maya and Woody Harrelson, who are worried about 5G technology. Now, if you don't understand that someone like Woody Harrelson is just part of the show, part of the production, who, says some true things, says some stuff that makes sense, but at the end of the day, you should understand whose palms he's getting greased by, or you know what I mean. They even failed to cite the study that Harrelson mentioned and only expressed was interesting in an Instagram post that has since been censored and removed. The question that is being raised here is not whether 5G is responsible for the virus, but whether 5G radiation acting via VGCC activation may be exacerbating the viral replication or the spread or the lethality of the disease, wrote Professor Martin Paul. The study is entitled Role of 5G in the Coronavirus Epidemic in Wuhan, China, which presents the theory that the suppression of the immune system by exposure to 5G towers could weaken the body and increase the detrimental effects of COVID-19. He concludes that, in his opinion, therefore, that 5G radiation is greatly stimulating the coronavirus pandemic and also the major cause of death, pneumonia, and therefore an important public health measure would be to shut down the 5G antenna. Well, it's not, I don't think it's doing anything to the so-called virus, because I think the entire thing is a complete hoax. And there's even doctors now that you can find videos of talking about how they're being forced to call any deaths COVID-19 or whatever they've changed the name of it to today. He specifically notes that he isn't saying 5G is solely responsible for the virus. Instead, he expresses whether the radiation could be making things worse. The question that is being raised here is not whether 5G is responsible for the virus, but whether 5G radiation activation may be exacerbating the viral replication of the spread or lethality of the disease. Sure, I just said that. Did they put it in there twice? I guess they did. Okay, the The BBC also followed with an article against David Icke, who appears to be claiming that COVID-19 is a hoax and is directly connected to the effects that we are seeing from 5G towers. This writer highly disagrees with that position and sides with Zero Hedge, who posted a job listing from Wuhan Virology talking about SARS in bats, as well as Czech Dr. Sona Pakova, who's also working on the test for the virus, and stated that it's likely an escaped lab experiment due to the modified proteins. I guess I leave that on the table, that there is some strange thing, but I don't think we've seen any evidence, and I don't think the viruses are as they've been described. As most of us have perhaps learned by now, a virus is something that the body makes to rid itself of toxins. Germ theory, terrain theory, blah, blah, blah. But I respect Icke's right to state his opinion. Theory, as a result of the BBC's article, at least in part, YouTube has banned all discussions about 5G potentially further affecting COVID-19 victims. Technology, which in the words of Scientific American last year, we have no reason to believe is safe. That's even the Scientific American saying that we have no reason to believe 5G is safe. And Scientific American is not exactly an alt paper. Skipping ahead some, there are no studies suggesting 5G could be harmful is a massive pile of bull dung lie, and it's comparable to scientist Sir Richard Dole saying Agent Orange doesn't cause cancer, defending the chemical industry while being paid for 20 years, and journalists reporting that as truth, ignoring conflicting studies. Because science does exist which cites potential dangers, noting that more research is needed to determine the extent of current or future damage to humans, animals, and even existing systems like meteorological satellites, which will likely be disrupted, according to meteorologists. 5G operates on extremely high frequencies in the 30 hertz to 300 gigahertz range compared to 4G networks that use frequencies below 6 gigahertz. And the link will be in the description. This is a rather long article. I guess one of the main points I wanted to make is that 5G is absolutely dangerous, and it has been proven that it's dangerous, especially if it's used at 60 hertz, which I guess it doesn't have to be. But at the same time, whether that has very much to do with the current situation is, I think that remains to be seen. So I would have been up for some chat if anybody would care to do so. It looks like there might be one lurker. I am not looking at this on YouTube. I'm looking at it through StreamYard, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Was there anything else that had occurred to me during this that I wanted to touch on? Just like there's this one person at work, not really friends or anything, but happened to say to him the other day, has it occurred to you that this is about something other than a virus? And he kind of shook his head like, yeah. And I went through some of the points, and the person agreed with me. I guess I'm kind of, I'll still try once in a while to talk to people in the interest of perhaps pushing someone closer to being aware, but I don't have a lot of I know some people want to beat up the word hope all the time, and I realize it's not something you want to put your stock in, or I mean, you don't want to misuse it, but I don't know what the other right word is for things sometimes, and I think there is a good part of hope. But anyway, I have hope sometimes that I'll be able to push somebody a little bit closer to being aware and stuff. But I'm also very very not self-confident in that way. I just feel like it's just all within us, and it's, you know, be the change that you want to see, and all of that. So I guess that'll do it for now. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.